So we are doing creating a productive learning environment tonight, and my name is Keenan, for those of you who we haven't met. And tonight we have a large group teacher, a couple of preschool small group, and your third grade small group. So we're probably going to touch on every age level, but feel free to bring up any questions you have at any point in time, because it's really not, even my numbered pages aren't even really sequential. They're just stuck together with numbers at the bottom. So we can kind of hop around. The one thing I wanted to share with you, I am, like, by trade a teacher, so all of this is so exciting to me all the time. And, you know, I'm like the dork who's Googling, like, effective teaching strategies. And I just want you to know that, like, I don't necessarily expect that from everybody. And when one time I was at a Pampered Chef party, which is, for those of you who don't know, cooking utensils and like really expensive goods. And, you know, she said, you know, you have to cook anyway, right? So wouldn't you like it to come out right? And I was like, you know, that is the best point in that. Well, first of all, she was just trying to sell a $40 spatula. But to me, that made so much sense. Like, I don't want to invest a ton of money in cooking. I'm not really that good at it. But I really care about how this meal turns out. And I really want it to be a little easier. So if I'm going to stand there for a half an hour cooking, wouldn't I rather it not, you know, stick and it actually have the equipment you're supposed to do, instead of putting the pizza like on a cookie sheet, put it on the actual round stone it's supposed to be on? So that's kind of how I feel about teaching, like teaching strategies to people who are, you know, you might be an engineer, an artist, you know, in marketing, but on Sundays and Wednesday nights, you need to be another profession. And I know that it might not be your, the thing you maybe went to college for, but with a couple of tools and a couple of strategies, it would be so much easier. Like, that's that I want it to be successful, so that when you walk out of your large group time or your small group time, you know, that child learned. Oh, they got along so well. Wasn't that conversation amazing they had? Or, like, did you see how they showed sharing and love? Did you see how they remembered this from last time? Like, those are the things you want to have happen. And so one of the things that we're going to look at is, how would you measure if they learn? Now, Becky and Jen send out a great lesson plan, large group and small group. And it has a ton of ideas in it. And quite honestly, I guess all of you get that, right? You could, like, literally teach from that word for word. Have you ever noticed they're like, say, and then they put in parentheses. And my personal favorite part is where it says, share with your students a time when you were lonely. And then they put nothing inappropriate. Like, and I'm like, seriously? I'm like, let me tell you, sit right down. Like, what are they doing? So they're very, very helpful in that you can't go wrong with these lesson plans. And they're so nice.
Sorry.
No problem. There are handouts on this chair right here. If you just what's I going to say? Oh, and they also fill.
Wrong line. I'm sorry.
This is the art of creating a productive learning environment. You need walkers, and
Yeah.
It's in the sanctuary.
In the
Sorry.
sanctuary.
Didn't know you were They fill your bins even with all of your supplies. Like, that part of it is just given. Like, it's such a gift. I've taught in other Sunday schools, and honestly, I started teaching when I was in 8th grade, which is like been 5 or 6 years now. So it's a really long time. And I mean, I've been in places without crayons. Like, you're just like at a table, good luck with that. Here's the Bible verse. So you really have a nice support system here, and I want you to be able to really use that that lesson plan that they give you, and feel free to really go copy that. Actually, if you don't mind, if we can go to the 5th page, which is the learning strategies, because I think that'll be really nice for tonight. Again, the question being, how would you know that your students learned? when they left you, whether it was large group, preschool, or K to 5th, how do you know your objective that's that bottom line at the top of your thing? How do you measure that? So thinking of that, I was thinking maybe we could pretend that our lesson was like the fruits of the Spirit, just because that's something we've all probably been taught at various points in our lives. So if we just kind of keep that in the back of our minds, like how would you teach that to your grade level? The first thing, and I do this with mostly younger children, number one is just be repetitive with those key words. And then how you'll know that they know it is when you finally stop your sentence halfway or your phrase and they fill it in correctly. That's one way to measure it for the preschool set. So like this one, I just put, trust God no matter what. And as you said that during the table time, during the art time, during the worship time, and they're saying it with you, trust God no matter what, trust God no matter what. And then you're like, trust God. If they fill it in correctly, they learned. Their go-to answer is always God, just so you know. Who do you love? God. Who loves you? God. It's
Yep.
So actually if the answer's not God, they probably actually learned something because they figured it out themselves, right? So that's a nice technique, and I use it actually a lot. I work with birth to 3-year-olds right now in early intervention, so I actually go to people's homes and I work with the parents, giving them strategies, and I use that a lot. And you can use that with older children. It's just typically there's better ways to evaluate whether or not an older person had learned something. The other strategy, number 2, is decrease your interrogation style of questioning. Now I know you have to ask them questions to get answers, but what happens is when kids are peppered with a ton of questions, what's the Bible verse for this? What's the bottom line of that? Who did that? What's your thing? And there's a whole bunch of questions. Anyone who can't process the first one, by the time you've gotten to the third one, they're not listening. And that's also why, if you've noticed when you're at a restaurant and you see the parent saying, stop running, stop running, stop running, and the child is just, going around and around. If you didn't know English, you would think that mom or dad was like cheering the child on to run faster. Like you don't understand the pairing of stop running and then this person is going so fast. So like they tune you out, unfortunately. But that's what kids do. And if we know that, then what you do is instead of the peppering of the questions, who did that, what did that, what happened after that, what did it, do it in a conversation style. So that again, it's more like a fill-in. And it's a safer place for kids who aren't comfortable answering questions. And it's a safer place for kids who aren't typically at the top of their class. So that in a conversation style, you're like, oh, one time when my mom, and you start sort of that, and it's like, I wish I had, what is that when you just can wait and wait for a long time? And they're like, patience! That's right. It's less threatening, and it's just it's a go back and forth way a little bit more that I found a lot of success with the younger kids with that too. The older kids will want to just talk your ear off. And I know you can't let them do that in large group because it's a different scenario where they can't keep coming back with answers. But the next thing, new skills need to be based upon already mastered concepts. Now, what's important about that, and this is important in large group too, some of the things that we're doing with the littlest ones, it seems like it has absolutely no chance of working because it's such an above level concept. But the thing is, you have to lay the foundation, so you're absolutely crucial. What you want in these young years, 3-year-old, but even really 3rd grade, honestly, how old is that in your Christian life? How old is 3rd grade? Not really very old. So what you want is for them to have had just the habit of prayer, to see what prayer is. And how Jen had explained, like, we just have some basic concepts. Who's God to you? Something like that. I compare it to, I used to teach first grade before I had my daughters, and they used to make us teach money, coins specifically, in the math curriculum. There's honestly nothing worse than teaching 6-year-olds a dime, a nickel, a quarter, and a penny when no one has seen change since like 1985. They all used credit cards. So they can't even add, honestly. The children couldn't even add, and we had to get them to recognize a dime is 10 cents, a quarter is 25 cents, and put them together, and what do you get? And I'm like, they couldn't even add. So it was such a this is the worst chapter. But the point was, they have to get that foundation, because when second grade comes and they can add, they cannot see those coins for the first time. Then that's 2 demands placed on them at the same time. Adding them for real and learning to, who is this guy on the dime, and why is the quarter, why is the nickel bigger than the dime if it's worth less?
Good question.
Who made that one? I know. Kill me every year.
And the penny.
And the penny, what's with the penny, that it's bigger than the dime? So the thing is, if you are the ones who are showing them the coin for the first time, somebody else along the way in the older years will teach them to count and add and then actually buy stuff, So don't undervalue the fact that our kids are young, because you are laying such an important foundation that literally you can't build on top of that. If you do take the money example, you can't ever say, here's 79 cents, go buy such and such, if they don't know a dime, a nickel, quarter. You can't. So it's the same way. You can't expect to exhibit the fruit of the Spirit when you're not even really sure what God and the Holy Spirit and prayer is. You can't. Now, the next one is a little bit academic. You might know it if you have kids who've gone through reading, learning to read. There's 3 basic levels of teaching. And by levels, frustration level, instructional, and independent. That's number 4 on our paper. The frustration level, that would be where the child is unable to participate in the task at hand, even with help, okay? So, for example, we teach, my family teaches kindergarten and first. So we have some really varying levels in there. Sometimes we like to throw in a little seek and find or something for some free time. I gave somebody a seek and find. It's just the word search kind of thing. And, he really couldn't even quite understand why letters were vertical or horizontal, even with help. So, I took that and gave him something else to do. That's frustration level. You don't want to be there. If the child is at frustration level, he can't learn. So, bring it down. Where you want to be is called instructional level, where they are working with you, with the teacher, with a new concept and able to participate. So with the seek and find, I might be able to say, now these are the fruits of the Spirit. You're going to find them. Here we go. Remember what is peace, and the EA is going to be in the middle. It starts to be you're with me here. You need me. I'm with you. We're learning something. Instructional level. You kind of want to stay there. Then independent level, that's either more for that's when they can do without you, is the definition. You don't want a student there the whole time. That's when you're going to get behavior problems, because, again, with the fruit of the Spirit, say, the student already knows them, already memorized it, already colored in the grapes 100 times at his other school or whatever. You're just looking at trouble, and he's not going to learn anything. So you'd have to sort of advance for that person, and you'll get that sometimes. Of course, you'll get that in large group, because you have K to 5th in large group. Now it's going to be 4th. But that's a really big, learning style that you have to do, where you present one thing and you have to make it applicable to a 4th grader and a kindergartner. So keeping it at an instructional level for everyone, usually, for example, I might, I have one activity, this would be for just really littler kids, but It's like a cookie jar, and you just put cookies in it, and I'll do it with older siblings too, and they can handle the numerals on the back, 5, 6, 7. On the front are candy dots. That would be for like a 3-year-old. The 18-month-old, just cookie in slot. That's it. But it's one game, 3 levels. You just focus differently. Where's your instructional level? And if you notice a behavior like throwing something, pushing it away, can't do it, the ants in the pants, it's either the child is way past it at an independent level and could have done it without you, or at a frustration level, and you just don't want anybody there. It's frustrating. And then here is something I find very helpful is number 5, an average learner, okay? Just your average person, average learner, everybody, grown-up, child. It takes 3 to 5 times typically to learn something. So, for example, if you even brought in a vehicle, a car, and you opened the hood and you showed me who I get gas and that's about it, and usually I just click the thing and then run into Wawa and get some food, which I'm pretty sure not how to do. And you showed me what's under the hood. It goes like this. You tell me, so teacher shows you, then I try it. I probably fail. She shows me again. Then I try it again. And that's your 4th time. And maybe I get it with a little help, and then the 5th time, ooh, I got it. That's your average scenario, okay? So teacher teaches it, child tries it, teacher shows you again because you probably got it wrong. Teacher shows you, you do it finally successfully. A slower learner will be more like 8 times, okay? So you're up in a slightly higher range where they have to try it a couple more times, and that's all. And then your faster, even gifted student would possibly even have it mastered before you put it up. They kind of guess it. 1 to 2 times really is all that they need. So that's another way that you can monitor your class for who learned something and how fast they learned it. When you take the feedback and you ask them, tell me again those the fruits of the Spirit, or which one of those is the one that I really need when I'm waiting in line, that kind of thing. When you're gathering that data back from your class, you can find out how many times did you show this person before she mastered it? And then you can start to gauge for the future. Okay, we're going to need less repetition with this student. The bulk of the kids will be in 3 to 5 repetition. And then, again, a smaller amount will be in, the 8 range, 8 to 10. Now the last one, you could have a master's in education on this one, number 6. It's about the, it's actually the levels of learning that we all have. It's called Bloom's taxonomy if you ever Google it. And it really is like something you would learn if you went to college for teaching. But what I'm trying to tell you is that there's a higher order to learning, and that you would have too. Like right now you're sitting here and you're learning something. And if we took the fruits of the Spirit, first level of learning is just knowledge, it's memorization. So if you memorize love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, self-control, gentleness, faithfulness, level 1, that is your most basic level of learning. It's just rote memorization. Again, with the car parts, if I just said carburetor, distributive, or whatever that thing's called. I think it's distributor, isn't it? Yeah. I would just have memorized it. I have no idea what to do with it. Okay, so you don't want to stay there, but you have to start there because it's the first level of learning. Some kids will rapidly move past that, but if they've memorized something, you're at level 1. The second one is just simply understanding. It's like comprehension. Give me the definition of love. Oh, it's when I'm nice to my friend. Okay, good. You gave me a definition, you're at the second level of learning. Everyone is capable of the first, say 3. The third one is application. Who do you love? How do you show your mommy you love her? So those first 3, you should always be moving through in Sunday school, on Wednesday night, in large group, in small group. There isn't really any reason why, it just may take longer or shorter, but there's not really any reason why we can't move through memorizing, getting an understanding of what the thing is, the concept is, and then applying it to your life. The other three are higher orders of learning. Not everybody is capable of it in general. It is based on your learning ability, so it's possible that somebody with a lower ability to learn may not be able to accomplish the other three. So you really want to not frustrate that person, but it's not saying that they can't. I'm just saying you might take a look at that also. And also the activity or the concept might be the difference. Like if you really were going to show me all the car parts, my interest level would play a huge factor in the fact that I'm not really going to make it through levels, 4, 5, and 6. So basically the 4, 5, and 6 is analysis, synthesis, and evaluation without, beating that to death. It's just a matter of, can you take apart those ideas now? Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness. Can you maybe compare which one you might need more in certain situations? Can you even think about, what does the world think about peace versus what Jesus taught about peace? You can see how they would be higher level concepts. That's not necessarily for the younger kids. There's just parts of the brain that aren't developed yet. They can certainly do application, which, is how do I love my mommy and God? But that would be another way that you, when you're getting the feedback from your students, you can monitor, okay, they just came up with an idea. Like, if it's love, joy, peace, they can say, it's funny because you can't have joy if you don't have love. Like, you'll see them starting to pull things apart and put it back together in a new way that you did not teach them. That's a higher level of thinking, and that's one of the ways you can kind of check mark, he got it. He's past memorization, he is past comprehension, he's all the way into synthesizing. And then the last one was just evaluation, which is really putting a moral judgment on something, which we would like to get to. That's something that's why we're here. So we would love to get to the last level of learning. And the other thing that's really neat is that because of what we are teaching, I do not believe that we are cognitively limited to ever understand God. So the Bible, you might have scholars that have 100 letters behind their name, but the Holy Spirit will speak to somebody, doesn't matter, with an IQ of 70, who is visually impaired, who maybe doesn't even have language. And that person can easily have a better concept of patience than somebody who's been studying the definition and the cultural significance of patience for years. So just because we understand how learning takes place and who's learning what, and you can really pick out who's at a higher order of learning, I would never limit my students or my children or my friends to, I'm sorry, your IQ is only 110. You could never reach the 6th level. It's not like that with God. He speaks to all of us. So I would just, keep encouraging you to say, that's just prayer. That's just your relationship with God and how he opened your eyes to the Bible. Plenty of very intelligent people who are too smart for God, right? Mm-hmm. So, do you have any specific questions on that one? That's like the toughest page of teaching, the big time. You're okay, because that'll be just something you'll sort of start to absorb as you are in the process, and as you're looking and getting the feedback. We can go to page 1. I might skip around a little. Now this is the first one. I had to put it up at the very beginning because if there is one thing that if I looked around and I thought, one thing I think that we, as all of us teachers, don't do as well as maybe we should. It's that model, model, model. That's why I said it 3 times like God does in the Bible. If the children are doing it, if they're worshiping, if they're coloring, if they're praying, you should be too. And my husband has a huge problem with this one because we teach K and 1, and he really, I'm like, you have to play box. You have to do the thing too. You have to. And even all the signs, you know, the hand actions to all the songs in large group, I make them do those too. Because the kids will learn from you. You're the model. You have to do it too. You can't stand up at the back of the wall and let them worship. You have to do the hand actions. If I know it's embarrassing, it's not embarrassing to me. My daughters are embarrassed because I'm doing the hand actions. So I think honestly, some of the best interactions I've had with kids where I really could determine where they were spiritually came from just sitting next to them and coloring and doing a seek and find, doing those magnet blocks. You know, it's like, oh, this just fell apart. I get so frustrated when this happens, and out it comes that, oh, I got so frustrated at school when somebody said this or that. So you have to be there, and you have to be doing what they're doing. I always I'm used to when I was teaching in the school district, when the principal would come down the hallway, we would have a little signal that we'd know that she was coming down to observe us. And let me tell you, you never wanted to be where the kids weren't. That was a huge signal. Bad teacher alert. The kids are at their desks and you are at the story corner. The kids are here, you are there. Proximity and modeling all the time. So if you happen to go in your kids' classrooms and the teacher's not with the kids doing what they're doing, should be doing that. Some of these are behaviorally directed because people always have questions for me about that, because that's one of the things that I do in my real life is develop behavior plans for families. So I like to start off a class, and I'll do it in large group especially too, and that's, I give a very clear statement, whoever is sitting and so specific, I want you cross-legged or something like that, really a specific clear statement. Don't be afraid of that. Sometimes we're so afraid to say something that winds up being really negative. It's please choose your inside voice for your space bubble. And it's just what does that even mean? Just be clear and firm. And that's what I would really tell. I don't think any of you are very novice teachers, but, to my daughters who, like I said, they're 14, their kids are only 7 years younger than them. And they don't have that, they don't have the confidence. And, that's one of the things I'd love to instill to some of our younger or just newer teachers is just be confident and be firm. You need to be sitting down. You need to have your feet on the floor. That's it, just right out there. I think in large group also, the third one where it says encourage socially competent behavior and appropriate behavior. We have 36 virtues we're gonna go through with this curriculum. And sometimes I feel like we're not holding our kids up to them. In large group, when some of them are lying down on their bellies or rolling over, taking their shoes on and off. I don't think that applies necessarily to the 3-year-olds because they're supposed to do that.
They definitely do that.
They do that.
Why to us? What are we doing wrong?
Yeah. Right. No. They. I wouldn't expect anything different. For the 3-year-olds, I would just give them a wider berth of expectations. You need to be on your mat. If you are on it, you've won, as opposed to you need to be sitting cross-legged or you know what I mean? I certainly wouldn't give them a lot of demands placed on them for that, just so long as they're in a position to listen. The thing is, the more active your body is, the more alert your mind is going to be. So for real, the child who is sunk down, we call it the sacrum sitting in my field, where they're rolled back, and you know how you can kind of almost rest your head on the back of your shoulders and like literally not be using a single muscle other than, you know, your eyelids, that is the most non-active learning position you can be in. So what we do is, you know, we get kids up and, you know, tilt their pelvis forward, get them, you know, on a ball, or I sit them on my knee, and that's when we'll read a book. Because if you're active, you're in a position to learn. So, you know, I would like to see, as we move forward in large group, and again, not in the preschool, but, you know, you're in third grade, you can sit up, you know, sit like a grown-up and look forward. That's an expectation of respect for your teacher. So, you know, when I do large group, which isn't all that frequent, but I will absolutely say, like, I need everybody to join the group. That's how we show respect for each other. Because, you know, you don't want that, like, cliquish or cool kid or something like that. You want, it's got to be, like I said, there's 36 virtues that we have. So, you know, you have the responsibility to sit up and to not be disrespectful and stuff like that. So I would definitely like to see some improvement in that area when we're teaching. Don't be afraid to use those virtues. Like, we've learned about perseverance. I think you can sit up for 5 minutes for a video. You don't need a reward. Like, we've gone through, you know, trust. I think you can, you know what I mean? Like, we really need to, once we've sort of taught a virtue, keep instilling it and then keep referencing that. And that's where we're going to get to our mission and our vision that Jen had spoken of in the Catching the Vision session. The next one, just use the body words. That's very much for the little ones. Hands on your knees. If you tell them what to do and name the body part, they almost like can't not do it, if you've ever noticed. Like, they don't necessarily even want to, but they can't stop themselves. You know, you're like, hands on your knees. And they don't hit each other because their hands are on their knees. But if you said don't hit, all they hear is hit. I don't know why. It's just they hear the last word and they go with it. You know, and I know that it works because I've seen, you know, even like I said, as I'm training my daughters and stuff, and I'll say, like, you know, everybody's rushing to the door to be line leader, you know, and they're like, stop pushing, and I'll, you know, go over my daughter and be like, you're basically just going, this is all they hear, blah, blah, pushing, blah, blah, pushing. That's pretty much all they hear. So I said, what do you want them to do? And she's like, back up. I'm like, go for it, you know. Take a step back, feet back, you know, something that is clear and obvious, and use those body words. I do that with the littlest kids mostly. The other thing that, since we are so blessed to be provided with a lot of teachers, you should have a partner. And mostly also, again, in preschool, you don't want to ever be not with the children. So if you're going to have snacks, say, one of you should be setting up snack, the other one is reading a story. Then when the kids go to snack, that other teacher should be, whatever, putting the mats away and getting the, whatever, puppet ready. So that you're constantly rotating tag team preparedness. You don't, again, if the principal was going to walk in, you don't want to be getting glue out of the closet while the kids are at the table. That's just going to be one of those pampered chef moments where your meal comes out awful because you didn't buy the $40 spatula, because that is all about preparedness, you know, and even like just the specifics, you know, liquid glue, glue stick. That sometimes is the stickiness between success and failure. or the parents being your worst enemy when they come to pick up their children and there's this dripping, horrible art project that you hand them for their cart. Also, sometimes the environment. It honestly can be your biggest enemy when you are trying to get a learning environment going. Now again, you guys are very fortunate over in the preschool because you have a segregated situation. In large group, we don't necessarily have chairs. We have people kind of coming in and out. Sometimes the environment is not your friend. Do the best that you can. When I teach in this room, I won't let the kids face that shelf right there because it's like Toys R Us, you know, they're not going to listen to me. as entertaining as I am. So you really have to create a situation visually and like really reachable. Like if they can reach it, they're gonna play with it. So if it's not time for that, don't put it out. If you make your classroom like a runway, they will run through it. Even just the other night, like Wednesday night, kids club, we had, instead of Pioneer Clubs for the summer, we've just been doing just a theme week here and there, and we had board game night. And I took there was like 100 of those like little rubber mats that you sit on, and I made like, I don't want to say quadrants because there's more than 4, but octandrants. There were like sections, lots of sections, visually. There's no reason why a child can't walk over top a row of mats, but they didn't. They stayed in their little section and did a board game, Othello, dominoes, whatever, I don't know, whatever they were playing. And like my husband's looking at like, why are they staying there? Like, you know you can walk across these. And I'm like, it's visual. Like if you didn't have that, I guarantee you they'd be running from game to game to game and never finish. Again, you wouldn't get your learning out of it. You've got to go deeper to those higher levels. Now I know those were just board games, but they were still working with each other, and that was our objective of the night. So I think so much can be prevented by changing your environment so that you can be an effective teacher, and then you start getting that feedback. The other thing I think is really important too is, again, in the preschool room, this one thing that some of these came from observing preschool like maybe a year or 2 ago. That wasn't you, really, that's right. If you have 10 kids at the table, just have 10 chairs. Overcrowding just is like, it's like when you're in a subway, that's bad. So make sure there's this proper spacing. You don't have like a whole lot of extra things. They want to move, by the way, from chair to chair to chair to chair to chair to chair to chair. So if there's only 10 chairs and you're sitting in one chair and there's 10 kids, you're golden. When parents come, sometimes that's the most chaotic time. So I would give them a choice of 2 things at most, or even just the one thing, but it has to be at the independent level, so it can't be anything they need help with. It could be a board game on the floor, it could be blocks, something where there's enough pieces. Coloring is exceptional in my book. That's like the best thing because anybody can do it, and you can have a high level paper, you can have a lower level paper, it doesn't matter. But they have to have something to do, because we don't want our families coming in the door to pick up our kids and they are running around, because the parents honestly wouldn't know that didn't happen for the last hour or hour and a half. Like, I know we know it only been happening for 2 minutes, but they don't know that, and we need to give them confidence, and we need to be able to even talk to them for a few minutes and say, wow, so-and-so's really been showing a lot of patience. We've been talking about that this week. So that's your opportunity, and give them something to do. I'm gonna skip down. You probably know this as general as parents, but never give a warning for a consequence that you can't actually do. Again, like the mom at the restaurant, we're gonna leave if you don't stop running. That food has been ordered. You are so not leaving, right?
Not at my house.
So, right.
You only had to leave once.
But you left, and that was the end of it,
left.
right?
That's right.
Exactly. I know. I'm with you. If you say it, you have to be willing to do it. So if you tell that child, I'm going to call your mom or dad out of the sanctuary, you really need to be able to back it up. Don't throw it out there if you can't back it up. We did talk about a lot of this. If you go down to the second to the last one, understand the 3 functions of behavior. This is like, again, this could be a master's in education if we could just work on this for the rest of our lives. There's only really 3 reasons for why kids behave, anybody, any human, but kids do what they do. To escape or avoid a situation. Okay, so I don't want to color this paper. I don't want to sit next to this person. So escape, avoidance. Or to get something. Attention, access, or I just say gain because it's just easier. I want that crayon. I want your attention. I want something. That's really your two reasons. The third reason you don't find a lot, but it's sensory seeking. So you might find a child who does not like lights, or needs to rock, or wants to rub a particular material. So that would be a third reason. It's not as common. So basically you're looking at the first two. What does the child want with the behavior that he is exhibiting? Is he trying to get out of something or get something? It's gonna be one of those two. So if you can figure that out in the given situation, you can fix the situation with some work, but very quickly. So the thing is, when, let's say we're doing a large group, and there's a child who's popping up all the time. What do they want? They want to get something. They want to answer something. So they want to get the attention. They want to be part of your program. Do not give it to him or her for behavior we do not endorse. So there's your control of that situation. You're thinking you're trying to gain the ability to answer this question or participate in the game. Now you can model for that child and bring that child alongside of you by saying, as soon as you sit, you can be the helper. It's like magic. But you had to know what he wanted. And you cannot, give them the thing. Like, let me give you another example. I had a little one who hit his sister, who was a baby, because she was noisy and the child had sensory issues and just didn't, she would make noise and bop, a little whack-a-mole, bop. Well, of course, as the mom, she would remove the baby. Like, oh my gosh, you can't have the baby be hit. What was this boy getting? Exactly what he wanted, so we had to figure, and this was tough. Because you can't put the baby's safety in jeopardy, learning, here's your learning trick, you can't do that. But his, quote, bad behavior was to, avoid the noise of his sister. Bop. Oh, it worked! So we had to actually pair, which is another technique, pair good things with the sister and bad things with her absence. So we put the TV on his favorite show, sister's there, he goes to reach, oh, TV's off. That's it. Oh, that's a shame. Oh, sister comes back. Cookies. So we had to actually change the pairing. And then, of course, not during the incidents, we would have the definition of gentle touch and this is nice hands and stuff like that. So I would focus very strongly on what does that child want? To gain something or to avoid something? And whatever you do, don't let them have it unless you have helped them model one of those, one of our virtues of, becoming more Christ-like. We can patience and I just put a couple little lists on the second page of just easy things. Not that I honestly think any of you wouldn't have figured this one out, but we use these a lot as just how to get kids to want to be part of the group, how to eliminate or extinguish unacceptable behaviors, and some kids need them so frequently, so that it's like, sit on your bottom, oh, you can be my line leader, sit on your bottom, oh, you get a sticker, sit on your bottom, oh, here's your, I'm going to write a note to your mom. Like, some kids need it more frequently, and that's okay. We're all at a different place with that. And then you can just, on your own, read the body language, showing respect through body language, and that is much more for the older kids. So I would say third grade and large group. I wouldn't, preschool, they don't even know all their body parts yet, so couldn't do that. But that's something that we're really working on with the third through, say, fifth graders of look at me, sit up straight, that sort of thing, and how we can communicate so much more through our bodies than we actually admit. And you'll know this from any teenager around. If they're like, "Oh, I like your hair," or like, "Like your hair," that was the same sentence, word for word, but the body language, the eye rolling, it makes such a difference. So that's one of the things we're trying to really get across to our kids too. And just keep in mind, in closing, that the learning strategies that are on that last page, that's really where you're going to find the answer to your question. Did they learn what I set out to teach them today? And just use those, and you should get that feedback. So that's it for today.